you are looking to buy a home in Southern California, there is absolutely no way to get around having solar on your home. New construction is actually requiring it, so you are stuck with having this on your home. Today we're here to break down whether this is a good thing, a bad thing, what the different options are, help you weigh those options out. And this will also apply to you if you are looking to make a resale purchase that maybe already has some solar on it, or maybe you already own a home and you are actually considering whether solar is the right option for you and your family. Let's break it all down today as we evaluate the 3 different options you have when it comes to solar panels on your house in Southern California. Hey guys, I'm Andrew Lewis, your local Temecula Valley realtor, and this channel is dedicated to all things living in the Temecula Valley, from new construction tours, neighborhood spotlights, to new things coming here to the Valley. I want you and your family to know exactly what it's like living here in Temecula before you make a purchase. Thanks for tuning in today, and let's dive in. When it comes to solar panels here in Southern California, or specifically for our channel here, the Temecula Valley, you've got 3 main options as far as putting those panels up on your home, and we will break each of those 3 down. Just to be upfront with those, you've got a lease option, you've got a power purchase agreement option, or you've got the outright ownership or purchase option on those panels. I want to give you the pros and cons of each one of those, let you know exactly what to expect there, and hopefully give you some guidance on exactly what might be best for you in your specific scenario. The first option you've got is the lease option. And so with the lease option, you're probably familiar with this as it comes to cars and things like that. It's very similar to that. So with a lease option, you're going to lease a certain number of panels from a solar company, and they're going to charge you a flat fee for that lease. So you're going to have a fixed monthly payment for whatever number of panels that you determine to go on your home, or that the solar company will actually determine to go on your home, and you're going to pay that flat monthly fee. Now, what you've got there is that the solar company actually owns those panels. You're just paying for them to get there and be on your roof and produce the electricity for you on a monthly basis. Now, they're going to own those panels, they're going to maintain those panels, and something just to be aware of is at the end of your lease term, which is typically about a 20 to 30 year lease, at the end of that term, the solar panel company gets to come remove those off of your roof. And just a caution there is, what does the condition of your roof look like after they've removed those panels? Something to consider when it comes to putting any sort of solar panel up on your roof in the future. So now let's break down the pros of having a solar lease. Pro number 1 is that there is little to no startup cost to put those up on your roof. So if you don't have a spare 10, 15, 20 plus $1,000 laying around, this might be an option for you, because you're just going to sign an agreement. They're going to put those panels up there, and then you're going to start making monthly payments. So typically not a gigantic startup cost for you there. So if you're just looking to get into solar, reduce that electric cost without any sort of upfront cost, that is a major pro to this system. Now, you also have the fact that the solar company is going to maintain those panels because they are actually leasing them to you to produce energy. So if there's any sort of problem with those panels, it doesn't become your problem as a homeowner. You will need to reach out to the solar company, and they will come out and maintain those panels and typically take care of those to make sure that they're still producing a minimum number of kilowatt hours in order to make a productive system. So they're going to maintain that, take care of that for you. The maintenance doesn't typically fall on you as the homeowner under a lease option. Now let's talk about some cons. Cons to this is you don't own those panels. You're making a monthly payment and you're getting no actual value added to your home. So keep that in mind. That is not a value add to your home because somebody else owns those panels. You're simply renting them, putting them up on your roof. So that's something to weigh out when it comes to putting that on. No additional resale value. On top of that, if you choose a lease option, you actually are not going to qualify for some of the tax rebates and tax credits that you would get if you made a purchase on a solar panel system. So don't be fooled into some of those companies that are telling you that you're going to get a tax credit. You put a lease on there and you're not going to get anything there because, again, you're not actually owning the system. The solar company does. And actually, guess what? They get money for putting those solar panels on your home from the government. So keep that in mind. You lose out on that. Something else to be aware of is that you're making a fixed monthly payment regardless of what those panels are generating. So there are some options where your bill could fluctuate, and we'll talk about that with the power purchase agreement, could fluctuate with the amount of actual generation of solar power, but with a lease, you're paying a fixed monthly fee regardless. It doesn't go up in summer, it doesn't go down in winter. It's a fixed monthly fee regardless of what you're using on the power side of things. So last but not least, and I think this is a really important one to consider, on a lease, when it comes to selling your home, that lease will need to be either paid off in full and let the next owner have that entire solar panel system for the remainder of your lease, or traditionally what happens is you transfer that over to a buyer. Here's the catch though, with a lease, this actually is the most difficult transfer in a real estate transaction because it actually counts against the buyer's debt to income ratio. Because it is a fixed monthly payment and not actually considered a utility payment like most of your other utilities, it goes into the buyer's debt to income ratio and can actually impact their ability to afford your home. If they have a pre-approval letter for $800,000 and your house is priced at $800,000, logically you would think that deal would go through. But if you have a solar panel lease, say that payment is $150 per month, that will actually disqualify somebody from purchasing your house if they're qualified at that $800,000 mark. So just something to be aware of, not impossible to navigate, but just a small hiccup that can happen with a future real estate transaction. Next up, we've got the purchase option. So this is outright purchasing those panels, and you can do this one of two ways. You can make a lump sum payment and buy those in full right up front, or you can finance those solar panels through, typically the installer of those solar panels will offer some sort of finance option. But with a purchase, you obviously are going to own those panels. They go up on the roof, you are the owner, you can install them, uninstall them whenever you choose, up to you. It gives you a little bit of freedom. You know, as solar technology evolves, maybe you want something a little bit newer, you can take those down at any time and replace them with a new panel system. So an owned solar system gives you that advantage of ownership, as well as some of the tax credits and benefits that are going to come along with that we'll discuss here in just a second on the pros and the cons. So this honestly is my favorite option if you have the ability to make this happen. There's just a lot more advantage to it. It's going to add value to your home. It's something that you have complete control of. And it's basically gives you ownership over what happens with those panels. So let's dive into the pros and cons for owning a solar panel system. So pro number one is this is going to add value to your home in a real estate transaction. So if you're putting a $20,000, $30,000 system up on your roof, you're going to get value added to your home. So some of the other options don't add any value. It's a benefit, but not a value. So this is actually tangibly investing back into your home along with lowering your electricity costs along the way. Now, advantage number two, you're going to get those tax credits. You'll look into that depending on when you're watching this. Those change all the time, but on a purchase, you will have some tax credits available to you, and that should help you save some money come tax time at the year end after you've installed those panels. And lastly, what I would say, the advantage to this is once this system is paid off, you're truly getting at that point free electricity. With a lease or power purchase, you're always making some sort of monthly payments. Otherwise, the panels will be removed from your house. But with this, once it's truly paid off, it's just advantage to you as a homeowner because you're actually getting free electricity going forward. So if you can make a purchase, it's one of the best possible options for you. Now, the downside to owning some panels is obviously, number one, the high startup costs. You're either shelling out $20,000, $30,000 cash, or doing some sort of financing, which impacts your debt to income for future purchases, whether that's a car, a motorhome, a boat, something like that along the way. That's going to impact your debt to income ratio. And outside of that, you also are going to have to maintain those panels on your own. So if something breaks, you're typically not going to have much outside of maybe like a 1-year warranty that might come with some of those panels, but you're not really going to have somebody to call that's going to come out and maintain those for you. And things like a solar inverter box, those can be like $3,000 to $4,000 if something like that goes down. So you're basically reinvesting more back into that system in the long run. So maintenance falls on you, and you're actually going to be making those monthly payments, which is going to impact your debt to income. So those are the only real two cons to owning your solar system. Last but not least is the power purchase agreement. Now, this one is often confused by homeowners as being called a lease. This is not a lease for you. This is a power purchase agreement. You essentially are agreeing to now purchase power from the solar company. They're going to put panels on your home, and you're going to pay them according to what those panels produce in electricity. For example, maybe your Southern California Edison bill is billed at 25 cents per kilowatt hour. Well, with a power purchase agreement, you will negotiate with the solar company how much you're willing to pay per kilowatt hour. Everybody has their own rates, so make sure you shop that around, but maybe you can get that for 12 cents a kilowatt hour, effectively cutting your electric bill in half. This is a huge pro for you. So with this power purchase agreement, you don't own the panels. You basically are signing up for the solar company to become a utility company for you. It's typically a 20 to 30 year term that you're agreeing to with that. And there may be some sort of escalator clause, which may increase the cost of that per kilowatt hour purchase price over time, but it's definitely never going to surpass what you may be paying with the actual electric company here in the area. So they own the panels, you pay a payment, which is going to fluctuate up and down on a monthly basis based off of what your panels are actually generating. Now let's talk about the pros of a power purchase agreement. Number one is that you are going to have a lower electricity bill. And that's honestly true of most of these systems that you're going to put up there, but you're going to negotiate a lower than average cost for your per kilowatt hour. So it's pretty easy for you to predict what that bill may look like for you going forward. Again, for the example, 25 cents a kilowatt hour with your current electric company, maybe you negotiate a 12 cents per kilowatt hour with the solar company, you're effectively cutting that bill in half. Pro number two, you've got no upfront payment on this. So again, it's very much like the lease. You do the negotiating, they come up and put the panels on there with no out-of-pocket cost until your system is up and running and actually producing electricity. And lastly, with a power purchase agreement, it does not affect your debt to income or your buyer's debt to income when you go to sell your home and transfer this system over. So because it is not a fixed payment, it goes up and down like your utility bill. It's gonna go up in the summer because you're generating more power, and it's gonna go down in the winter because you're gonna be generating less power in the winter. Because of that, it's not considered a fixed cost that's going to impact the buyer of your property. So that is great news. It's actually one of the easier ways to transfer a solar system when it comes to a real estate sale in the near future. So you're not gonna have any sort of concerns with somebody having a pre-approval for 800 and buying your house at 800 because it's not going to impact their debt to income. Now, let me give you three cons or three downsides to the power purchase agreement. Number one is that it does actually have to be transferred over to a buyer at the sale. While I said it is easier, you still have to convince a buyer that the contract that you signed and negotiated is actually a good deal for them, because there are good power purchase agreements and there are really bad power purchase agreements. So if you sign a bad deal and you have a savvy buyer down the road, they may look at that and go, that's a deal breaker for me because I'm not going to lock myself into that bad contract. Now, outside of that, you also do not get any tax credits because you don't own the panels. And lastly is the fact that some of these contracts come with what's called an escalator clause, which allows that per kilowatt hour negotiated price to increase over time. Now, I've done a lot of research on those, and you're typically not going to see that increase over what the electric company is charging you, but it is something to be aware of. You may have locked in at 12 cents per kilowatt hour, but it may go up a half cent every year, which over time may put you, 20 years down the road at 30 plus cents per kilowatt hour. But on average, with the way the electric companies raise their rates, it still should maintain its savings over time, but you're not getting a better deal, essentially. You're just gonna have to watch that bill go up every single year. So that's something to watch out for. So that's the breakdown for you've got your purchase, you've got your lease, and your power purchase agreement. Now, which one is best? That's honestly up to you and what you plan to do with that home. Whether you plan to stay there long term, what your financial situation looks like. I would honestly say, like, if you can make a purchase, I think that's one of your best possible options. But again, don't make a purchase and then sell your home a year later. You probably just aren't gonna see the long-term value in it or get the ROI. You're not going to put $30,000 of solar panels up on the roof and get $30,000 back. It's actually gonna be kind of a diminishing return over time, because as those panels go on, as they age, they become less and less effective. So I do like the purchase option for that. Next, I would put the power purchase agreement just because of the simplicity of the transfer, although make sure that you're negotiating a really good deal there so it doesn't impact a future sale. And then lastly would be the lease option. But all three are an option to get solar panels on your roof, start saving some money versus what your standard electric bills are. And I would just say you are probably, if you're putting a new system on your home, you're gonna be in the new net metering that the electric company has. And so you're gonna wanna discuss with a solar professional, and we can give you some guidance on that, but what that looks like. So you're actually probably gonna wanna add some sort of battery system along the way to help store some of the electricity that you're generating but not using, because the worst thing that can happen is that you actually overgenerate, sell that back to the electric company, and then like 1 hour later, you use more than what you produced in that hour, and they sell you the energy you generated the hour before for like 3 times as much. So that's something to look out for, but again, the solar professional can guide you there. So that's it for our breakdown on the 3 types of solar here in the Temecula Valley in Southern California. I hope you found today's content helpful. If you did, go ahead and hit that like button. Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear about your solar experience. I know there's people that are on both sides of the fence, whether it's good or bad, whether it's helpful or not. I really think it depends on the deal that you've negotiated and making sure that you had somebody really well representing you on the sales rep side from the solar company. And last but not least, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future content. Thanks again for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time.